shirt and scratch down the notes. We're all going to a party full of people you won't know, yet they all know your name, but they haven't seen your face. The calm before the storm is the worst part of it all. Your stupid words echo too long from the bedroom down the hall. It's much easier to shut up, but I find it way too hard. Caught in a cycle of trying to seem sort of real, but I lose more of me as I spill.
Do you ever feel like disappearing? I always wished it, but now it's really happening. Someone's talking, it's coming out of me. I want to stop it, I want to feel something.
It's good to be included. Just pretend that you're the same. You have to stay alive just to learn somebody's name. It's good to be included in their endless fucking game. I find it hard to stay alive just to learn somebody's name. She takes a photograph of happiness, holds it to her heart for the tears are falling down her cheeks to her mouth like alcohol enrich your soul.
Oh jeez.
Won't you let me walk you home from school? Won't you let me meet you at the pool? Hello, I'm Bellza, and I'm a singer-songwriter from Hastings. Making music all started for me before I can really remember. I remember getting my first guitar when I was about 5 or 6, and I remember my mum teaching me how to play guitar, but as for when I wrote my first song, you know, I truly can't remember that far back, but you know, it started off as quite a casual thing, and it's definitely snowballed into something that I want to do, you know, with my life. These past couple years of, you know, I've seen a lot of development in my music making. I've been recording my album from home, and I've been writing a lot, and, you know, I hope it's going to continue for a very long time. Aside from actually writing and making music, I do also, try and branch out into other areas of the music and arts industry. I have a music promotions company called Bellza, and I put on shows through that in sort of East Sussex area, creating or building on the space for like folk music and alternative singer-songwriters. I also like printmaking, and I'm trying to build that up and making t-shirts and posters and that kind of merch for myself and other bands. I really enjoy it. I enjoy lino cutting and screen printing. That's all still from home. I'd love to have a studio, but just not at the moment. The music I make is heavily rooted in like acoustic guitar and folk music, but I try to keep things experimental. I appreciate trad folk, but it's just not for me. So I really try to sort of play different instruments that maybe I'm not that good at, like drums and bass, and also just experimenting with analog synths and sampling. So yeah, my music is pretty, rooted in folk, but I definitely wouldn't confine it to that. The last show I played was actually one that I was promoting, so I was really grateful to be able to do that, because I could play a gig and enjoy that aspect of it, and also put on bands that I really love. There's a local band called Sea Dog from Brighton, and a friend of mine who has a band called Woon from Hastings, and yeah, it was just so great, because when you're playing a show for someone else, you never know if you're going to have the right crowd, if you're going to be the right match for the other people on the lineup, but this was just, a great experience. As for my favourite show I've ever played, it was probably at the Delaware in Bexhill. It was part of an all-day festival called Colours, and I got to play first, which meant I got a free ticket to a festival that I could spend the whole day enjoying without worrying about having to play. And there were some really great bands playing, like Wise Blood and The Big Moon and Porridge Radio, and it was just a really crazy feeling to be supporting bands that I would probably be too nervous to talk to if I saw them in public, just because I'm such a big fan of their songwriting and their sound, and yeah, it was really great to actually share the lineup with them. So that's definitely one of my favourites. There isn't really a story per se of me coming up with a name for myself, because I wouldn't say that I have a name for myself at the moment. I just try to do good work. I try to improve on my songwriting and my performance and my production, and I think that's the biggest motivation, is that I could always be better, and I'm just sort of hoping that if I keep doing my thing, outside of my spare room where I record all the music, people are maybe going to start listening. So yeah, I'm still kind of in the process of making a name for myself. In terms of musical influences, I've always been a massive Elliot Smith fan, and I think that filters into my music, definitely. A lot of the time I'll write a new riff or some lyrics that I think are really good, and then I'll realise that Elliot Smith did it like 20-30 years ago. So that is the big one. In terms of like modern musicians, I'm a really big fan of Alex G. I think his songwriting is really like original and accessible, whilst also not being just shallow. I've seen him live quite a few times. I think the band is also just great. I'd love to have a band like Alex G's band. I think one of the biggest challenges that people face, that I face as an aspiring artist, is just how oversaturated the market is with musicians and singer-songwriters. I do think it's a really great thing that music has become so accessible and that anyone can record an album from their room. I also think that, the bigger people in the music industry, labels and publishers, they do take advantage of the fact that there are so many musicians desperate for a shot that, they will work for free, or they will, make big artistic sacrifices that really no one should be making. I think that's a really big issue for, small musicians. And I guess another problem is social media. I think it's, again, a really great tool, for like free advertising of your music, but I also think that it can take up a lot of time and introduce a lot of stress to musicians that would be better put into their songwriting and into building their skills, not, worrying about how many people have liked their Instagram post. So it's sad, but it could also be a lot worse. I'm totally grateful for recent advancements that there's been in making music that's just made it so accessible. My album came out on the 23rd of August, which was actually my 18th birthday. And the vision behind it was a lot of different things. I recorded it over the course of maybe 2 years, and I was writing it while I was recording it, and I was in college, and I was learning to play drums while playing drums on it, so it's pretty fragmented, like sonically, but also the writing spans sort of, out of phase on that album. I wrote when I was 14. It was one of the first songs that I recorded. And then other songs like Everything Is Better Now, I wrote that when I was 17. I was a completely different person. So it's also pretty fragmented lyrically. And I think a lot of that could be influenced by the fact that it was done partly in lockdown, and it was done while I was doing this crazy 4-hour commute to college, and I'd have all this time sitting on the train looking out the window just like thinking. That really drove my writing, but also made it a bit weirder. So yeah, there's a few different visions behind it, hence the name Goldfish. Goldfish, in my head I was thinking of like a cartoon fish in a bowl, like separated from reality. It's kind of bleak, but it's also just a bit, like gimmicky. My plans for the future aren't definite. I just want to get better. I just want to make more music, play more music. I'd love to, do a tour at some point in the UK. I'd love to go to America and play in Europe. I'd love to make another album, more music videos. I'm really motivated to just keep getting better, regardless of whether or not anyone's listening.